Hi! Today we'll be making cha siu, or Chinese roast pork. Now I've already prepared the raw meat, so let's talk a little bit about that. I use pork shoulder, also known as pork butt. This roast weighed about 3 pounds, cut into medium-sized pieces with some of the excess fat trimmed off. Now pork shoulder is a pretty fatty cut, but in my opinion some fat is needed for cha siu. Chinese use pork butt for barbecue pork because the fat really is part and parcel to the authentic dish. That said, I've tried using pork tenderloin and pork sirloin roast with limited success. The pork butt is just juicier and more tender, but of course less healthy. I've tried a number of marinade recipes and settled on this one. I found it on Siu's cooking channel here on YouTube and credit Chef Siu for this delicious version. You can find a link to Siu's cooking channel in the description box. He has many good Cantonese recipes there. I combine the dry ingredients first and massage them into the meat, then add the wet ingredients to the pork and mix them all together. I also double the marinade recipe so that there's plenty for marinating as well as some reserved for basting. Marinate the meat no less than overnight in the refrigerator, turning the pork at least once in the process for full coverage. You can also bag it up for marinating. With the pork nicely marinated, it's off to the grill for roasting. I use foil to indirectly cook the meat and keep the marinade from dripping off. I'll turn the meat at least once, usually more for even cooking. Cooking time is variable depending on your grill and the volume of meat, so I won't give a time. Just monitor it closely and use your thermometer as a guide. Sometimes I'll put a can of water on the grill to keep things moist, particularly if you're using a leaner cut of pork. It's safe to add the marinade that the meat was soaking in when the meat is still raw. After the meat starts cooking, use only the clean reserved marinade for basting to avoid cross-contamination. I'm removing excess juices to try and get the meat to char on the foil, but it looks like I'll have to finish up this batch directly on the grill to achieve some burnt edges. If you're curious like I was why pork shoulder is sometimes called pork butt or Boston butt, here's why. In early America, pork was stored and shipped in wooden casks. A butt is a specific size of wooden cask. A barrel is also a different size of cask, as is a keg, hogshead, and a bunch of other sizes with rarely heard names. We now erroneously call them all barrels, but who am I to judge? So, now that you know that the shoulder and butt are one and the same, how about this piece of trivia? The upper portions of the pig were considered choice and were more costly and affordable only to the wealthy. Hence came the old phrase, living high on the hog. The meat is nearly done, but it doesn't yet have the char I'm looking for, so I'm going to finish it up directly on the grill. A couple of words about different cha siu marinades. Some use brown sugar, others honey for sweetness, and those are fine, but this recipe uses regular granulated white sugar and hoisin sauce to sweeten things up. Restaurants tend to use lots of red food coloring for visual appeal. I see no need or desire to add poison to my food. Food coloring is evil. If you need to have pretty red cha siu, there are more natural alternatives, such as beet juice, red bean paste, or fermented bean curd. Let's face it, our arteries are already screaming that eating fatty pork is bad enough, so let's not drive that coffin nail even deeper. Some barbecue pork marinades use 5-spice. Now I personally like 5-spice, but you have to know this, it's really strong, and you should use it sparingly. Two more Chinese cooking staples are sesame oil and fresh ginger. They're delicious and important to many Chinese dishes, but if you use too much, they can easily overpower your other seasonings. On the other end of the spectrum is garlic. I love garlic. For me, garlic and onions are the staff of life, and when recipes call for 1 clove, I add 4. The important thing in stir fries is not to burn that garlic. Burning it will ruin your dish, and that's really easy to do in a smoking hot wok. A lot of people add minced garlic and ginger to the hot oil as the very first step in a stir fry. If I do this, I like to remove the bits from the oil as soon as they've made the oil fragrant, and then add them back later near the end. Or, I'll chop my garlic and ginger coarsely so they don't burn as easily. As a rule, I'll put my minced garlic into my marinating raw meat and then barely flash fry it to rare. The beef or chicken is then taken out of the wok and reserved to be added back after the vegetables are almost done. And by done, I mean cooked but still crisp and crunchy, with the beef slices still pink in the center. Chicken needs a little more time, but overcooking is the cardinal sin in stir-fries. Pork is considered done at 145 degrees with a 3-minute rest, but I've cooked char siu up to 165 degrees trying to achieve that char, and it wasn't overcooked or dry. This looks good. Okay, can't wait to try one of these out. Very good. It's moist, sweet, got the right amount of fat on there. Now what I like to do is I like to take a couple pieces, maybe this size, and individually vacuum seal those in a bag and freeze them. And that's about the right portion size for a stir fry of your favorite Chinese entree. I'm going to make scrambled eggs with barbecue pork today, and then next week barbecue pork with tofu. Thanks for watching.